Philosophy is a vast field with complex concepts and ideas that require thorough research and understanding. Whether you are a student, an enthusiast, or a professional philosopher, knowing how to research philosophical topics effectively is essential. In this video, we'll explore the process of researching any philosophical topic, from understanding basic definitions to delving into professional discussion on the topic. By following the steps that I will present, you can deepen your knowledge and engage with philosophical ideas more critically. First thing that we need to make clear at the beginning: understanding a philosophical term or a concept is not a binary process. It's more of a spectrum, as there are different levels of understanding. And it's especially vivid in philosophy as one concept is interconnected with many other problems. For example, you may understand what having a cold is, that it's an infection of respiratory system, and you can know the common symptoms of the cold. But a medical professional will have a completely different understanding of what the cold is. If you are not into medical field, you won't understand the cold in the same way. So understanding all the biological processes that are involved in having a respiratory infection. And importantly, you don't need that knowledge to treat yourself and treat your loved ones when they have a common cold. So what I'm saying is that sometimes basic understanding is totally enough. But surely a medical professional needs to understand having a cold or a different sickness on much deeper level. And the same goes with philosophy. If you want to be a professional, you need to dive deep and thoroughly research the concept in question. And with that in mind, you can approach the research in different ways, depending on what your goal is. Nevertheless, there are fundamental steps to follow for any level of understanding. Firstly, knowing the definition of a concept. So basically having some meaning about the concept. Secondly, understanding broadly what the concept is about, knowing the most basic assumptions or claims that follow the concept. Diving deep and thoroughly researching the field, so understanding the problems around the concept, so knowing its history and its place in the field of philosophy. Okay, let's say that you heard a term that you are not familiar with, but you are interested in researching this concept. And let's say, for example, that this concept is metaethics. The first level will be understanding the definition of this term. Metaethics, so beyond ethics. So it's a branch of philosophy that explores status, foundations, and scope of moral values, properties, and words. Knowing that metaethics is not about what is right or wrong, but about what right or wrong means, or what the nature of moral properties is, or what the status of moral values is. Surely this definition is informative, but very general, and without more information, this understanding is pretty blunt. Okay, so let's go for the second level of understanding this concept. For metaethics, it will involve knowing the differences between cognitivism and non-cognitivism, and realism and anti-realism, concerning moral values and moral facts. Also knowing some more basic problems related to those divisions, and perhaps some more popular arguments for them. The third level in this context will be diving deep and researching the field of metaethics. So understanding the problems around the concept, knowing its history, and understanding its place in philosophy. Also knowing the most important figures, the most important works, and the most important problems in this field. Of course, these three steps are not strict. They just ought to show that understanding a concept is not a binary problem, but more of a spectrum. And you can choose the level that you want to be at. It's surely not limited to those three steps. Okay, but practically, what you should do to obtain those levels of understanding. Let's move to the next step of this presentation. So let's say that still you want to research the concept of metaethics. The great place to start, in my opinion, is the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. It's comprehensive and written by experts in the field. The entries that you can find in this encyclopedia should give you a basic understanding of the concept and some basic informations about also the history of the concept. Of course, as you can see here, they are relatively short, but what is really valuable are the references provided in the articles They are just at the end. So if you want to deepen your understanding, you should check those references and read the most important works cited in the article. These entries give you a great place to start, and if you need only a basic understanding, then they are just enough. However, one problem sometimes arises when one approaches Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, and it's ignotum per ignotum problem, as those entries can be quite high level sometimes, and use the concept that you may not be familiar with to explain the concept that you are researching. That's why ignotum per ignotum, so unknown by unknown. So at the beginning of this entry you can read, Metaphysics is the attempt to understand the metaphysical, epistemological, semantic, and psychological presumptions and commitments of moral thought, talk, and practice. Well, if you don't have much experience with philosophy, then concepts like metaphysical, epistemological, semantic are not very helpful. So what you should do in this case? Well, you should break down the definition and look up the foundational concepts separately. So if you don't know what metaphysical is, you should look up the definition of metaphysical first, and so on with other concepts. And of course, it makes everything more challenging. So what to do in such situation? Where again, you can look at the references that you can find at the end of the entry. Usually you should find there a textbook that can serve as a good introduction to the concept that you are researching. So for example, Metaphysics, an introduction by Andrew Fisher. A very good position to start with this concept. And as you can see, it has only 200 pages. Introductions are of course much longer than just an encyclopedia entry, so an author have more space to explain the concept more thoroughly and concepts around the topic. And this actually leads us to the next step. So using books like companions or introductions to a given problem in philosophy. There are many well-known series of textbooks published by known publishers. Usually they are concise and accessible introductions to various philosophical topics and philosophical figures also. They are great for getting a broad overview of the problem, and they can point you to more detailed sources. One of the examples is a series called A Very Short Introduction To, provided by Oxford University Press. Those books are written by experts in the field, so each book has a different author. They're a great starting point for sure. They're very accessible and they are also very short. Also, any other book that starts with a companion to or an introduction to. This series will give you a nice understanding of the concept, but a broad understanding of the concept, not a professional one. For that, you'll need to dive in more specific works, which leads to our next step, which is thorough research. So here a method is being more problem specific. For example, searching for particular papers on some arguments in the field. So for example, researching what is Frege-Gitch problem in metaphysics. Also, you can explore the most important figures in the field and read their most important works. Also, there's a tool like Google Scholar, where you can type a specific phrase that you are looking for and find some of the most relevant articles about that problem. So for example, we can search for Frege-Gitch problem in Google Scholar. And you can see different articles and also books about this problem. So what is the Frege-Gitch problem unity, and the Frege-Gitch problem, and so on. There are also a series of books called handbooks. These books are usually collections of essays on particular topics written by leading experts in the field. So they present far more detailed view on the problem than just a textbook. And they are great sources for deepening your knowledge about the topic. They usually rely on the most recent research, so they are also a great source of information when it comes to knowing what is happening in the field right now. However, they are aimed at more experienced readers, so they can be quite challenging. Lastly, some choices when it comes to choosing a right path to explore a specific philosophical concept will depend on the topic that you want to explore. It will be different if you are researching a person and not a concept, so exploring views of a famous philosopher. For example, let's say that you want to explore philosophy of Immanuel Kant. Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy is surely a good place to start. You can read the references and find a good textbook that can serve you as an introduction to his philosophy. However, you will not understand a philosopher without reading their works. Surely, relying on secondary sources is a good place to start, but it will not give you a full professional understanding of the philosophy of a specific figure. Researching philosophical topics can be challenging yet rewarding endeavor. By recognizing the spectrum of understanding, starting with reliable sources like the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy and utilizing accessible introductory texts, you can build a solid foundation in any philosophical area. As you progress, you can read more and more advanced literature on a specific concept. That will enhance your knowledge further and give you critical understanding of the problem. Remember that the path of understanding is not linear. It involves continuous exploration and reflection. But I'm positive that following the steps outlined in this guide, you can navigate the complexities of philosophy and develop a more nuanced and informed perspective. Alright, thank you for watching. I hope that you found this video informative and helpful. If you enjoyed this video, consider giving me a like or a subscription if you want to see more content like that. Also, if you have any comments, let me know in the comment section. That's it for today. Thank you for watching once again, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.